Mr. Sconyers, would you offer the invocation, and then we'll offer the pledge as soon as you complete?
Yes, sir. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for all your many blessings, Lord. We pray, dear Lord, you'll be with us today, guide our thoughts, give us clarity. Let us do what's in the best interest of people, Lord, and what you would have us do as we sit here together. Let us be civil with one another, and we ask these things in Jesus' name.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Looks like we do have a quorum. We may have a couple of others that show up, but we're going to go ahead. Let's go to public comments. Is there anyone here that would like to address the council and won't be here for the remainder of the meeting? Seeing none, let's go to tab 1, approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for February 3?
So moved.
All right, moved by Ms. Hafner, seconded by Vice Chair. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Show it passes 6-0. Okay, we have let's move to tab 2, our financial report. Ms. Summer Alford.
Good morning, Council. Summer Alford with the Office of Management and Budget. For the month of December, total TDT expenditures amounted to $3,277,287. For the month of January, TDT expenditures amounted to $5,293,670. Moving to the budget report, year-to-date actual expenditures totaled $17,470,608. Total revenue for the month of December, including interest and collections, is $1,811,582. Total revenue for the month of January is $1,765,771. TDT collections for the South Walton District for the current year equaled $9,460,588. This represents an increase of 14.8% when compared to the prior year. TDT collections for North Walton District for the year equaled $90,828. When compared at a 2% rate, this represents an 8.7% decrease when compared to the prior year. Reserves for the period amount to $164,917,289. This leaves an unassigned fund balance after deductions for projects, encumbrances, and beach renourishment of $55,711,721. I now respectfully request approval of the financial reports.
Is there a motion? Moved by Councilman Sconyers, seconded by Ms. Hafner. Is there any discussion? All in favor of accepting the financial report say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. Show it passes 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Alford. Okay, tab 3. Matt, you want to offer up tab 3?
Yes, sir. Good morning, Chair, Council members. Matt Algarin for the record. So what we have before you is the reimbursement to the Sheriff's Office for the months of January and February. Just respectfully ask for recommendation to get those passed through.
Moved by Councilman Sconyers, seconded by Vice Chair Wise Coble. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. Show it passes 7-0.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
All right, tab 4. Matt, you want to take that?
Yes, sir. So understanding kind of getting ready to fly into budget cycles, wanted to go ahead and get a couple budget workshops on the calendar for you all. I kind of based these dates off of the same cadence we followed last year. So provided 4 dates in May and 4 dates in June. So it's just hoping we can kind of look at our calendars and see if we can narrow in on dates for May and June budget workshops.
All right, let's open that up. Anyone here at the board have any recommendations?
Calendar real quick.
I can add in my own, but I'd prefer that, I know that we have the 5th tentatively scheduled for the workshop.
Yes,
Is there
ma'am.
any reason why we wouldn't do it with that? Or I guess, I mean, that we could combine them and just do it in one day since we would be here?
Yeah, we absolutely can. Was just looking not to double you guys up, but if that's, more convenient for your guys' schedule, we can absolutely do that.
I like the idea. How does everybody feel about that?
I think if we could, yeah, I mean, the other workshops together aren't as long, than it opposed to us coming back, another day and having staff set up and do an announcement. Separately.
Proposing.
So that would keep
May
it as
5.
May 5th, because May 5th, we're scheduled tentatively for 1 o'clock for a joint BCC TDC public workshop.
Correct. So we could do 9 a.m. on the 5th, May 5.
I can do that. If that changes, the 19th and the 21st would be out for me. The other 2 days work.
The 5th does not?
The 5th does.
Oh, the 5th
And
does?
6th and 7th do.
Sounds like everybody's kind of coalescing around May 5.
Perfect. That sounds great. Well, we'll go ahead and start getting that scheduled. And then if we wanted to look at the June dates, that would be next on it.
What is the, what do you anticipate the time frame looking like for the May 5th workshop?
So we'll have Scott Beck in town to give us another update and progress on all of the projects they've got going on the JLL side.
What I'm trying to avoid here is like, if we set the date as 9 a.m. and it only lasts an hour,
Right.
then that puts a strange gap in there if we're gonna be back at 1. So if we thought it was gonna be a 2-hour workshop, maybe we would schedule it at like 10:30.
Yeah,
If it was,
we're completely
did-
flexible.
what did it look like last year?
I believe last year we spent at least a good hour and a half or 2 hours based on my memory of those budget workshops.
Okay, so what if we said, is everybody okay with 10:30?
10:30? Absolutely.
All right. Everybody's in agreement this morning. This is good. All right. So it sounds like May, we've taken that off the board. June, do we have any ideas? I know that we're getting to the sweet spot of summer there.
Open on all those.
In terms of when we would get our numbers back, when would be the best date to see what our June numbers look like?
Right, so we won't get
Or-
June
Or
till
May
May
numbers?
till June. Usually it's the first week,
Okay,
usually, but sometimes it just depends on the clerk's office and how quickly they get that out to us. Usually it's no later than the second week of the month.
Of June?
Correct.
Could I ask when the final strategic plan is expected? Because that will inform the budget as well.
Absolutely. So we should have a pretty final draft May 5.
Okay.
Okay, so for June, we're looking at 16, 17, 18, 23.
I'd prefer that 16, 17, 18, the last week of June, preparing for 4th of July that week might get a little dicey.
I cannot do the 18th.
16 or 17 sounds
Mr. Taylor? Any?
Sounds good, keep it consistent with the Tuesday.
Okay. Ms. Steele, do you like the 16th?
Want to do like 9 a.m. or?
We can certainly do 9 a.m. We won't have any meetings on the back end of that day, so if 9 a.m. works for you all, we'll proceed.
Okay, so does someone want to, the chair would entertain a motion to accept the following dates as our 2 summer workshop dates. That would be what did we state? May the 5th?
May
At
5,
10:30.
10:30, yes, sir.
And June the 16th at 9 a.m. Is there a
sir.
motion? Okay, motion by
Second.
Ms. Edwards, second by Ms. Hafner. All in favor of the motion, is there any discussion?
I have one question.
Sure.
What is the location?
Right, so we'll do the May 5 meeting at the annex as long as it's available, just because that's where the workshop's already scheduled. And then we will work with admin on those June dates just to
Okay.
see the locations that are available.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Show it passes 7-0.
Great, thank you very much.
All right, tab 4, Mr. Irvin. I'm sorry, tab 5.
Good morning, Chair, council members. Josh Irvin, Director of Beach Operations, for the record. I was approached by Scenic Walton and Friends of 30A about a project that they have been working on over on the west end of 30A for some landscaping improvements and some signage that they would like to include there. So in my conversations with them, I told them that we completely support their desires to do that. And I think the most appropriate way to move forward with this particular project would be to put it in the FY27 budget. So I believe Scenic Walton is here today to kind of present a high-level proposal of what they're looking for in that particular improvement project and kind of get some direction from the council. I will tell you, in our draft budget, we've gone ahead and placed some funds in there, of course, tentative to the discussion and direction today. But with that, I'll turn it over to Scenic Walton and let them kind of go over that project for you all.
Good morning. I'm Lee Moore, Leighmoore, and Executive Director of Scenic Walton, and appreciate the opportunity, I'm also short, to talk with you all today. You've seen the presentation in your agenda packet, so I'm just going to run through it very quickly and hit some high points. Also have Christian here today and Tina from Friends of Scenic 30A. So let me just give you a little bit of context about kind of why we're both here together talking about this. We at Scenic Walton, we focus on public landscaping projects, also getting better and more pedestrian cyclist facilities throughout the county, and undergrounding overhead utilities. And those are our three primary focuses from a project and program perspective. So we have been working on, and previously we just focused on 98 and 331 south of the bay. And then in 2019, we expanded our geographic reach to the entire county. So one of our early goals was to get some good landscaping done at the gateways into South Walton. And we had been focused on that for a long, long time. This is one of the final gateways that we had put on in our goals. So as we've been working on this project and others, we have just come to realize that our mission overlaps a lot with Friends of Scenic 30A. We just have different geographic scopes. But they had been working on and talking about some gateway enhancements for 30A for quite some time. And this had been on our radar screen for quite some time from a more general perspective geographically. So we came together, and we're actually, I think, going to partner on a lot of projects going forward where they fit in our mission and they fit into the Friends of Scenic 30A's geographic scope. So this is it's almost two separate projects, but we're looking at them together. There's a entryway or gateway landscape component, and then there is entry signage that is more general for 30A.
What is our interest and what do we need to do?
Well, we are really putting forth the project as a suggestion or request to be included in the budget. So that's why we're here today. And we've got, as you saw in your packet, we've got some high-level estimates for the cost. And as Josh said, he has looked at it in the overall context of the budget. Since it is a tourism nexus, that's why we're here, starting with TDC Advisory Council. And so we're just looking to hopefully get it included in the budget for the coming fiscal year. And you can see those estimates. I think we've got a little bit of padding in there because they are high-level estimates from Josh's perspective. And we are looking for a recommendation from you all up to the Board of County Commissioners to approve the project to be added to the budget. So that's why we're here and how you can help.
All right, is this discussion, is it ripe for today for some type of consideration, or does the board think it's more appropriate to incorporate this request into the budget workshop? What are the thoughts of the council?
I would seem to think that we would need to include it. Josh, bring it forward with it. I appreciate you guys coming up today and presenting this. You're obtaining that buy-in, and I think that's really important, and you did a really good job with it. I like what I've seen, so I would just say get with Josh and make sure he incorporates it and brings it back to us.
And that's exactly what we're looking for, is that feedback. We didn't want to be coming in later in the budget process. One thing, if I can just mention really quickly, you saw the renderings for the entry signage, the monument-style signage. We were asked early on to put together a conceptual picture of what that signage could look like. So I want to be clear that we're not saying this is what we think it has to be. We're just trying to give people an idea of what we're talking about here. It would, of course, have to be designed by professional designers. That was me. We're just trying to get a conceptual idea in everyone's mind about what this could be, but there are a lot of variations on this that it could end up looking like.
Does everyone want to follow the recommendation of Councilman Sconyers on this, to incorporate this in the budget workshop, or any additional questions,
Fine,
comments?
but it's a great idea. I like to see us spending money on something that we can obviously see results from. And this is something that helps the community, helps people to visit. Good way to spend our money as opposed to some abstract budgetary item that's, thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank
well
you.
received.
Agreed.
Question, Ms. Edwards?
Do we know too what maybe some of the reoccurring costs? I know we have native plants, but what that would look like, and we can include that as well as a part of the budget discussion, just to make sure that we know what our part is moving forward. But I appreciate all that y'all put into this. And I was in South Florida last week, and they're so beautiful driving down, and I commend you for all that you worked to get us there. So thank you.
Absolutely. Honestly, we don't know a good dollar figure estimate for what, but there would be, obviously ongoing maintenance costs. Josh might have a better idea of that, but I know, and you're smart to consider that now, as opposed to later. And since this is a county road, many times these enhanced landscape projects are on state roads, and FDOT covers the maintenance for the first 2 years. But since this is a county road, this will be coming out from the county right out of the gate. So it's a great question. I will say this is going to be probably less intensive than some of these gateway projects because there's no center median, which really is expensive to landscape a center median, except for right at the intersection of 98, there's that small triangle. And there are going to be limitations on trees under the power lines and things like that. So I think if you stick to native, this will not be one of the most expensive projects to maintain, but there definitely will be a cost ongoing.
Okay, we'll look forward to those discussions when we go through the budget.
Great, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
All right, let's move to tab 6, citizen request from Mr. Joe Johnson.
I think so.
Mr. Chairman, member of the council, appreciate the opportunity to come here for you today. This is FFA Museum opportunity to request the funding from the North End TDC. This has been something that the Farm Bureau Federation has been working with the superintendent since 2012, when he was elected, I think in 2014, to rebuild the agriculture classes, FFA programs in the Walton County school system. Since Mr. Hughes has been the superintendent, there is approximately 9 ag classes being taught in 9 different schools, with 3 active FFA and a Pleasant Ridge Christian Academy FFA. Farm Bureau has used the funding since creation to try to get these kids to the FFA convention, contests throughout the state. It costs a great deal of money for this to occur. And talking to Dr. Shepard before his passing, we entertained the idea of creating a museum to hopefully to raise funding and awareness so that there would be a source of money to promote these kids to go to these conventions. We feel like that agriculture has been an important part of Walton County from the history. We have 3 remaining row crop producers. One of those is semi-retired. After that, those people comes from Alabama that produces the cotton, the peanuts, corn in Walton County. We have about 70 cattle producers with 20+ herd. We feel like this is an opportunity to educate first generation to preserve the agricultural integrity of our county. We feel like that you got to give awareness and watching these children that have participated since 2012. There's an interest in preserving and promoting agriculture. We think this could be a nucleus in the arena. We're hoping to ask the board to provide them property on the south side of Highway 90. There's a total 160 acres of this project. They allocated the north approximately 80 acres for the agriculture center, and we're going to ask for the 70 acres with Mr. Russell Hughes' support and the sheriff's support to introduce production for produce, hopefully to integrate that into the jail system and the school system. We feel like this is an opportunity to promote agriculture to the youth, also agritourism. Kim Faulkner has helped put a presentation together, and I would turn it over and let her at this time present that presentation. Thank you.
Good morning. A little bit about me. I know some of you probably aren't familiar. I am a former senior executive for 30 years in marketing, branding, and public relations in the tourism, youth advocacy, and national and global brand segments. Currently, I founded and operate a boutique tourism business in South Florida. I'm part-time here in Walton County. I grew up here in the summers. My grandparents had a farm here and have always loved, Walton County. I'm up in North Walton County. And I came back here as an adult 15 years ago and really saw all the opportunities going on in North Walton. And when I met with Joe and found out what he wanted to do with his tractor museum, I thought about all of the entities that are currently in Walton County that haven't come together to really attract visitors. So I worked with him to put together this plan. We have a short 4-minute presentation on how this combines tourism, education, and career opportunities for youth with this tractor museum. If I can figure this out. So we know we've got millions of visitors that come to Walton County, mostly in the south area, but there really isn't one thing in North Walton that captures their attention, that draws them up there. We feel that, is it going? You already have the visitors. We have over 5 million visitors coming to South Walton County. Just 1% of those visitors to North Walton County, attracting them to North Walton County, would really drive some success for North Walton in terms of tourism. We don't need to create the demand. There's already the demand here in Walton County. We just need something that is going to attract those visitors north. The strategy for this, it's already been laid out by your consultants. JLL in the December meeting talks specifically about North Walton County and how it does not need marketing right now, it needs product. And the products are there. We have farms. The solution, we feel, would be the Tractor Museum as an anchor to draw all of these current products that are in Defuniak, that are in North Walton County, together and drive some of that visitation north. Sorry, this is awkward looking this way and that way. I'm trying to make sure I'm in line with what we're doing here. And why does this work? Why would agritourism work? Why would this Tractor Museum, Ag Center, and all of the entities that are currently in place in North Walton work? Agritourism is the fastest growing segment in tourism in the U.S. today, particularly in Florida. We have a lot of agriculture here. It's driven by experience. People want experiences. They don't just want a canned tour. Families are looking for educational things to do. A tractor museum, an ag center, combined with all these other things that we have going on in North Walton County, is that. It's education, it's families, and it's an experience. So again, we have farms that are popping up every day. Frost Lane Farms, Breathe Easy, the Peach Shed. You can go there, you can buy fresh produce. The pieces are already in place. It's about putting that puzzle together with something that will draw visitors there. We've got obviously the lake, we have the historic area. Think of it as an itinerary. People come to the Tractor Museum, the Ag Center, they're attracted to that and drawn to some of these visits to the farms. We've got the 9th Street Market in downtown now. I don't know if anybody's been there. It's a fantastic store with fresh farm produce, very busy. I can encourage everyone to go check that out if you haven't seen it. Summer's here with us today, who runs that store, so she'll talk a little bit about that. So really the idea is the museum connects everything. People from South Walton, they want to do something for the day. The visitors to South Walton, they can go to North Walton and there's an itinerary. There's the museum, there's the farms, they can go to the restaurants after, they can go to the lake, they can visit the Victorian homes. There's a reason to visit the area. The other thing that was mentioned as a potential issue is the lack of hotel rooms in North Walton. I do agree, but we need to create the demand, because if we create the demand, trust me, in Walton County, developers are going to see that and they're going to build the hotels. And then Joe spoke about this a bit in terms of it's not just about tourism, it's more than that. It's workforce development, it's education for the young people through the FFA program and through the 501c3 that will operate it, hands-on mechanical training, agricultural training, and a career pathway for the youth of North Walton County. How does it operate? This is not going to be a burden on Walton County. The county owns the land, the FFA nonprofit owns and operates the facility. And it's going to be supported by the Farm Bureau, the visitors, and the community. So again, there's no burden on the county to have to worry about funding or operation of the facility itself. And this model works. It's proven. We've done a lot of research on this across the nation. There are tractor museums, ag centers with huge visitor numbers. There's strong attendance for these types of things. There's a farm in New Jersey. It's got an ag center associated with it. They do something called a tractor day each year, which is a huge success. It brings in over 100,000 people. Again, that's from the metropolitan New York area, but you can look at doing something that here and scale it down. And the last example I have of that, it was mentioned in the BCC meeting, the Ag Center, or excuse me, the Tractor Museum in Leesburg was a very big success in that area. They had very little advertising, very little social media. It was owner operated. 10,000 visitors a year went to the Tractor Museum in Leesburg until the owner died. There was no one to run it. It was set up incorrectly. That's why it's no longer around. This would be different. It would be owned and operated by a nonprofit and a regular business model. What's the next step? Amy mentioned in a recent BCC meeting about a marketing asset for North Walton County. We absolutely agree. We think there's enough there now with products that can be put together in a nice marketing piece that can be distributed to South Walton hotels as well as concierges and rental agencies to get the movement started on this. And then obviously next step after that is to secure this collection. Bay County is already looking at this collection. They see the opportunity here. Let's not miss it. We need to secure this collection, build the museum, and expand that agritourism corridor for North Walton County. It unlocks the entire strategy. We need to get, and as you know, Joe's ask is that these reserve funds be spent on securing this and getting this model put together. We don't need more marketing in Walton County, in North Walton County. We need something to market, and this is that product. And Commissioner Drake, I did forget to mention in the beginning, you had said in the BCC meeting where this was brought up that you wanted a more broad plan other than just the tractor museum, and I hope that you see that that's what this is.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good. I think we're moving in a good direction.
I would like to add that Dr. Shepherd passed away. Been working with his family. We finally have an agreement. They agreed to sell this collection. It was appraised some years ago, and the county paid for that appraisal of $5.25 million. They have agreed to sell it for $1.5. We have 90 days with a 90-day option. We would appreciate this funding. Give us opportunity to locate the remaining funding to round that off to the 1.5. They will have 2 years to build a structure for us to house it. If we are unable to raise the other funding, then the money would go back to the North TDC. But we would like the opportunity to reach out to some public financing, private financing, whatever we can do. I know that I would like for Ms. Summer to come up and speak, because to me, what she's done, creating the table, farm to table, the beef, the pork, that's what we're trying to teach the kids. And at the end of the day, I would like for her to come up and explain how her success and how difficult it is to be in the industry, but they're making it work. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Summer Adams, and I'm a local of North Walton County. I have been born and raised right here. I know several of you here. So my husband and I took over the family farm in 2020, and it was very important to my husband whenever we met. I knew that one day we were going to do everything possible not to have it turned into a neighborhood or solar panels or anything else, to keep it a farm where people can come to. And so we have spent 5 years of our lives with our own funds just trying, and time and elbow grease, to get children to come there. And I'm happy to say after 5 years, we've made a name for ourselves. We have people traveling as far as Apalachicola for a UPIC weekend. They come from Panama City, Dothan, far north Alabama. We have the largest persimmon orchard in the state of Florida, and we have 1,200 trees. And so whenever we started advertising that, it was about the experience. It's the only place that people can come and have like an apple tree experience, an orchard experience. And so now, year 5, we're averaging 200 to 300 people a weekend. On top of that, we host homeschools. So last year we had 25 schools in the month of October. What I'm getting at is the need is there, and this is a tourist development. That's what you would be doing. This is exactly what I think the North Walton money should be held for, is for tourist development. Whenever you buy this tractor collection, you are developing tourism. And then you're going to have people that are going to open up more Airbnbs. Hotels will come, and I agree with Kim that this is what we need, is more product. And there are several farms, like she mentioned, right around in that area. There's a horse farm right next to it. We did recently just open up a farm store downtown Defuniak, and I'm just overwhelmed by the people coming in that we did not know. They didn't even know about the farm, but they want that farm to table experience. They want this, and they want their children to see it. And it's really surprising seeing even like all the schools that come from Niceville that come there and say, I've never been to a farm. Well, that's sad. They live 30 minutes and they've never been to a farm, never been up close with a cow, have no idea that an onion grows in the ground. Adults, whenever I go actually to like Seaside to the farmer's market and I leave the roots on, and they're like, oh, wow. You know, so it's an experience not just for the kids, but it's hands-on for adults. And I do think that this is truly tourist development and also saving, you know, agritourism. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Any questions? Thank you.
For now. Here, Jerry.
Mr. Sconyers, you're recognized.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to thank Mr. Johnson for the presentation they put together. There was a lot of work that went into this, the marketing aspects of it and everything else. It looks really good. I've looked at some of the numbers that we were talking about, the annual visitors that showed up at I think it was Leesburg, and I think it was up to 10,000. One thing that I'm looking at with this and kind of goes back to one of the prior TDC meetings. I wasn't able to be here. My son had a doctor's appointment. But the one thing that I was looking at then and looking at now is the size of the North End TDT in the collection. So it looks like since 2021 to date, we've only collected $850,000 in TDT for the entire North End. So
Beginning in what year? To 2021?
2021, yes, sir. And it's somewhere in the area of $850,000. I forget I think it was the last meeting, we allocated $600,000 to marketing then, which only leaves $250,000 left there. I don't know if that's something we can revisit or talk about with this, because just like Mr. Johnson coming forward today, last night I was at a CRA meeting in Defuniak, and it was only one of another one that's come up where people are starting to gain interest in the TDT and the TDC and trying to figure out if they could use some of those funds for some of the things they're wanting to do in the North End. I feel kind of awkward about this because I'm representing Defuniak, but in the North End, we also have two other members on this board as well, Chairman Drake and Ms. Hafner from Freeport. I feel that the beds and the development is growing from Freeport North, and I think it's coming. I just don't know how long it's going to be before it gets there. I fully support what Mr. Johnson and Mr. Profit and everyone's doing with the FFA and the Agricultural Center, but that property's halfway between Mossy Head and Defuniak. And just like the growth I feel is coming from the south-north with Freeport into Defuniak, Eglin's coming over from Crestview and the Baker area into Mossy Head. So as they continue to grow there, it's just kind of filling in the gaps. I am really excited about what they're wanting to do with the youth and the FFA. I was in the FFA. My in-laws are farmers, some of the cattle farmers Mr. Johnson was talking about a minute ago. And then we crop every year with them. So with that, I have a great appreciation for this. One thing I would like to suggest, and I know that they're still trying to fill in the funding gaps for the Agricultural Center, is to establish that piece first and get us a facility to where we can start gathering some of that ROI that maybe could help with the maintenance of this. Because if you start looking at how many heads is it going to take at whatever dollar to kind of even get to what cost you're recouping on this? Or where are the heads, and I know everybody doesn't want to hear that term, but the heads and the beds going to stay that are going to get there. So is there enough investment in TDT to say that we are reinvesting in TDT to get this there? I'm not saying I don't want to do this. I'm just saying I think that one thing Mr. Johnson said makes a lot of sense is to get some of the private capital and to try and look at that piece of it first and then maybe fill back in that gap. One thing that I thought about, and I actually talked to Commissioner Curry about this a little while back, and I apologize for not having gathered more numbers and greater data for it, but an event that can tie an identity to what Mr. Johnson is wanting to do with the agricultural center that could bring ROI and an investment back every year that would possibly lead to heads and beds too, would be to take the model that they've done with the Georgia Agricultural Exposition and to try and do something like that in Northwest Florida. That event alone over recent years brings in an average of 80,000 people. Now their event was established in 1977, so it goes back almost to the time when we were born. But they average visitors for over a 2-day period, it's about 80,000 visitors, and they generate $1.8 to $2 million in revenue with each one of those events. Now, granted, I think the landmass that they were talking with, that is a lot more than what we've got, what Mr. Johnson was really originally allocated by the board there in Mossy Head. But there's still some other acreage around it that I think if the board was to see this type of excitement for an event that could lead to an identity to bring in some of that tourism, to market the agritourism with it, and then maybe staple the tractor collection with it at that point. For me, I think that would make most sense because it's something that you could do year after year that's a return on investment. That's a lot, so I'll stop there, but it was just some of the things I was thinking about with it.
Mr. Chairman,
Taylor.
my feelings are with the tourism that we have in Walton County, and we're blessed, the bed tax collectors do their own advertising. We target who stays with us, where it goes. So if Ocean Reef or whatever company generates $50 million in gross sales, we know where our guests are coming from and that we did it, and then we send that money into this tourist development. We need to be thinking about things that help the residents of Walton County. Tourism has to be a friend to everyone that lives in Walton County. And so that $600,000 going to marketing, it's just flushing it down the toilet. It's not helping Defuniak or the North End. $600,000 that may go to a collection goes back to the Gateway Landscaping. That's something that people that live here, visit here, they can see. The tractors, we don't have to always be thinking about ROI. It's not. Just buy it. Or, if we have 600,000 allocated that we were going to just spend on marketing, what was that going to do? I can tell you, it wasn't going to do anything. So I like the idea. I like the idea of us spending money that helps the people that live in Walton County and also the people that visit Walton County. Thank you.
Yeah. Ms. Steele, you're recognized.
Thank you. I was fortunate to have a tour of the tractors when Dr. Shepard was still alive, and it was really incredible, very impressive. I just have two questions. One, and I'm sorry if I'm missing something here, but what is the organizational structure? And is a nonprofit been formed? Is it a for-profit? Who will be doing the fundraising and organization of this project? And my second, well, I'll let you answer.
Walton County Farm Bureau Federation has taken this opportunity to we do have a letter here.
Yeah, give it to a clerk.
We can share it.
But the Walton County Farm Bureau Federation has funded. We have funded the video. We have funded this advertising, trying to promote this since 2023. We are the ones that filled out the nonprofit organization, the Walton County FFA Museum. We will remain as the board members at this time until the collection is put together, and that time, we have it set up to where, like the superintendent, we're hoping the chairman of Walton County, whoever that may be, the FFA advisors, the FFA presidents, county commissioners, that will be structured to a board that will oversee this. We don't feel like we need to be in charge of it. It needs to have its own board, and that's the way this is structured. But right now, until it's set up, Farm Bureau Federation is the one that's in charge of promoting and financing.
So if the tourism department purchased the collection, would it then be on loan to the nonprofit organization, or would we gift it?
We are asking that the FFA Museum own the collection, and at some point that if there's ever, it's dissolved, the organization is dissolved or the collection dissolved, then that collection will go back to the heirs of Dr. Shepherd. That's the agreement that they have provided us. I have hopefully sent that to Mr. Atkinson to look at, but that was the understanding that Dr. Shepherd and that we had with him, is that it would stay as a collection, but if it's ever dissolved, it will go back. But we feel like that the museum needs to be on the collection so that that board would be in charge of it and it wouldn't be political.
Vice Chair, you're recognized.
Well, I first want to say, I think, the vision of incorporating agritourism and the work you guys have done is incredibly impressive. I know that my thoughts were greatly changed after sitting with you at a table and better understanding the greater vision, because that's key to this. I do want to speak to, while I respect Tim's comments, the $600,000 was approved by this board and sent to the county commission. Now, I was the only person at that BCC meeting, to which I said to the county commissioners, I don't think there would be one person on the TDC that would be offended by you pushing this back. I think for me, in looking at that initial vote, and in hindsight, I probably did not take that as maybe seriously as I should have, and I'm fully willing to acknowledge that. When I spoke to the BCC at the end of that meeting, I said, in my mind, we've got three carts. We've got marketing, available product, and our available lodging product, and we're kind of at square one on all three. And I think that this really, the effort and time that went into this really opened my eyes to the potential we have. I mean, I know a few people in the audience know the second I saw that report come out from Matt that put agritourism as number 3 as far as a driver for tourism to the state of Florida, I forwarded it to my older brother immediately, because we're row croppers and farmers 45 miles north of you, trying to keep our dad's land as farming land and as, and intact. And it's a very huge challenge right now. But to speak to your point, Josh, I think the $600,000 for marketing would absolutely have to come off the table. You can't do both. But I do want to reiterate the point that I made in the initial meeting. And basically, I believe, and especially after hearing Summer's presentation, I believe that if we had a very well done visitor's guide focused solely on the north end of this county and the experiences that might be available to you, that I could put in all 200 homes that we manage in Seaside, I do believe that Seaside has guests that will take one day. When you're here for a week, the beach can kind of get old. To go feed a baby calf, that's cool, Most kids are going to jump up and down over that opportunity, and it is shocking how many people. It's kind of like the people that you hear have never been to a beach. The people that have never been to a farm is shocking, and I think you'd see a lot of these people, if they understood the level of restaurants we now have in Defuniak, I think you would see some of them do that and take advantage of that. So my questions were, of course, and I think you've somewhat spoken to it, where's the rest of the funding coming from? You answered my question when you said if we can't get the rest of the funding out of private enterprise, then our money comes back to the North End TDC, which is important. And then funding the ongoing operation. That is going to be, and just, it's maybe not a question, it's a point. Funding the ongoing operation is going to be something that that board is going to have to make sure that they're taking very seriously. I run a nonprofit, and I literally had to front money this year to get us kicked off. It's a basketball organization, but, you know, that if you don't get that operational funding, it can be extremely challenging times. So I'd just like to make that observation. And I think you said 2 years possibly for getting a building up. Is there any agreement on storage of these tractors until such time when we can get a building to put them in? Oh, even plan? Okay, I missed that and I apologize.
Dr. Shepherd, in the agreement, they will allow the tractor to stay at that location until October 2028. I feel real comfortable if we get to October 2028 and we need additional time. I feel comfortable they will extend that time because they would love for this collection to benefit the youth of this county and preserve it to, they will work with us anyway whatsoever. But it's time for, we've been talking about this for 10 years, I think. It was well within 10 years, and Bill Fletcher at the time was helping us with this, and that's where the idea of North TDC come from. Bill Fletcher's one that said we can't use South TDC money, so we need to create a North TDC. And that's where Bill Fletcher was able to do that. And there again, we would love to have the opportunity to use this money for that. And I will speak on, if I heard you correctly, Mrs. Conyers, about events. We have $840,000, and we've been trying to come up with the funding to build the arena to have events. We feel like that there is a rodeo circuit that is North Walden that would take and be very successful. There's one in Andalusia, there's one in Troy, and there's one in Baker. They're booked up. We need others available for these kids to have, and we could host larger rodeos. I believe that there was testimony today that the rodeo in Freeport was pretty well sold out, but we have to have a structure built to do that. But this will work together. We'll have an arena to have other events, and this will be a promotion. And we have the state park. The state park is within a mile of this. We feel like that state park will expand. We're hoping it will. And we feel like there'll be a lot of tourists coming to it. So we feel like it will work together.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so then I think for me, it's kind of getting to the nuts and the bolts of this situation. We originally, the $600,000 was what we had originally said we're comfortable with allocating. Matt, I did ask you, as far as a breakdown of what are we currently spending North End funds on, and how do we make sure that we're retaining, let's start with, I know some marketing, but let's also start with like the operational things. I know it can't be a lot, but you answered some great questions from me in our one-on-one, and I think the board would benefit from some of those.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. Really, truth be told, so the majority of the money that we're collecting in revenue north of the Bay, we're using for general awareness marketing, and that's really the meat and potatoes of it right now. You know, we talked a little bit earlier about revenue. So, you know, let me see. So in 2022, we brought in $261,000 in revenue, $267,000 in FY23. That jumped to $377,000 in FY24. And then FY25, we brought in $338,000. And then through January, we're at a little over $60,000. So, you know, we've brought in a decent bit of money. I think, you know, the one thing that's worth noting, and I had mentioned this to Miss Amy, was, you know, for the first year and a half, we did not expend any money out of those buckets. And then by the time we really got to, you know, the third year, that's really when we started, you know, utilizing those funds at that point. So, you know, it was kind of a deliberate, you know, idea of not spending money those first, you know, year and a half. So the expenditures were really minimal. But the bulk of what we're doing is just general awareness marketing right now. And Kelly can add on to that if there's anything she feels is important to touch.
So a couple things I wanted to mention when we talk about what we pay out of Authentic Walton, North Walton TDT. One of the things that we need to take into consideration this year is that previously all event grants were funded out of South Walton TDT. The new sponsorship that was created by this board, those events that take place in Authentic Walton will no longer be allowed to be funded out of the South Walton TDT as that is created after we have a North Walton TDT. As I spoke with legal to make sure that I was correct. So we would need to fund those out of this. Additionally, we've always, any of the Authentic Walton events, we've ran a whole campaign on all of the events that are a part of Authentic Walton. We did create the visitor guide. Amy, as you were talking about earlier, we have that complete visitor guide. It's online. I will have them printed supposedly the end of this week, that we can get out to everyone. We were waiting, we didn't have any place to store them, so we had to do some storage things to get them, but they're supposed to be here the end of this week, first of next week. It is a comprehensive guide of everything above Chattahoochee Bay, so it talks about agritourism, it talks about all of these things that are in here. So we do have that already in works. We also built a website with the money. That's some additional of the money that we spent, and we funded the sports study. It was the sports facility study. It was funded out of that. The feasibility study. I couldn't think of that word. So all of those things have been funded out of that. When I get up here next, I'll talk about the media plan that I have in place that I would like to fund. Obviously, it's for Authentic Walton, so it would need to come out of that. And I have a whole plan laid out for that. But those are the funds. And Mr. Halgren is correct. We did not spend anything for a year and a half to 2 years because, one, we had to collect it for a year, and it was middle of the year in March, so we just kept collecting it, and that's kind of what built that up. And additionally, we paid for the Henry Park enhancements in Defuniak as well, that bathroom enhancements.
So I think what I'm really driving at is what should we be looking at? We've got these reserve funds now. What should we be looking at on an annual basis for North Walton as far as what you guys would feel like? Do we need $100,000 operationally each year? Do we need $50,000? Do we need $150,000? That's what I'm trying to understand.
So I'm happy to bring the media plan down, but the media plan that I have in front of you that's been to you all, if you will look at it, Authentic Walton for the events, I've got $23,000, and I've got it all broken out on what we would do with it, but I'm asking for about $250,000 for the media plan. And you can see that I've got it all laid out. And it doesn't make much more than that. So I can bring the media plan down, like I could drop all of the opportunistic, but obviously my job is to market the destination and drive TDT, and overnight stays is what drives TDT, and that's one of the things that we're doing our best to try to. Day visitors are good, but day visitors do not generate TDT, which would not go back into the funds, which would allow us to reuse it. So if you look on this sheet right here, all of you have it, you can see the breakdown of the media plan, and you can see that I'm asking for about a little more than $250,000 for the media plan.
Thank you. And I think I'll stop. I'm sorry,
you're
I've been too
fine.
long, but I think where we all are is I could not agree with you more. We had this conversation. Ultimately, we do need to drive heads and beds for the North End bed tax collectors, but I think if they and we have a fiduciary responsibility to do so, but if they broaden their way of thinking, that may not be an immediate return. If we can drive the product and these other aspects of what we're talking about, in the end, they're still going to win. And so that may be something, but I agree with you. You do certainly have to do some of it for marketing. So, I mean, I've asked a lot of questions. I think where we're at is we have this $600,000 that we had allocated. That really doesn't change based on the questions that I asked. It changes the purpose, because you're still at that point, I think, keeping $200,000 that we already have, plus you're bringing in roughly, we just said that, roughly 270, 338. We're in the same family. It has gone down a little. I think y'all said 14% in the financial presentation.
8%.
8%, my bad. We were
And
14
we've
up and
also,
8 down. my
we've
bad.
also increased it by 1% as well. That was increased in 2025.
Okay.
So it was, we were only bringing in 2% and now we're bringing in 3%, but still with the 3%, it has gone down 8%.
I got you. Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
And I did have that confused. Okay, I will stop for a minute.
All right, let me offer a few comments. So we have a lot of boxes that need to be checked. I think the number one box that needs to be checked is the acceptance of the overall vision of the project. And I don't think I sense any concern here at the board level on what that vision looks like, that what has been presented, what we think would be best suited for this area is right on par. What we do need, the boxes that we do need to continue to check are the total costs, the maintenance costs, what potential partnerships would we have in assisting us with those costs, the location, timing. What is our, so if we have 1.5 million set aside for tractor purchase, what other additional costs do we have for the facilities? I know we're asking the legislature for money, we're asking the county for money. Farm Bureau has committed some money. Where are our funding sources coming from, and what are the additional funding or projects that need funding?
The funding source of the 40,000 that is for Farm Bureau that is paying for the engineer, and the 800,000 is 300 from the farmer's market that we definitely need, and 500 for the arena. That is a totally different structure than what would be required to house this tractor collection. The tractor collection, according to the report provided by the professionals of for the college, about 58,000 square feet. I do have a bid on a structure of 60,000 square feet, and that structure is roughly would cost you somewhere right at 2.5 million by the time that it is built and completed. The arena, which is a separate structure, is going to be about 2.4 million, and we have 840,000. So there's additional money that would be needed for that. But the funding for the building has not been identified at this time. We're hoping that the commission, county commissioners, will help us in some way to build this facility as to give the youth of North Walton, like other parts in the area or throughout the county, and help build these structures.
Okay, you were going through those pretty quick, but I just wanted to see if I captured most of that. So we have the $1.5 million that we're asking for the purchase, and then we had, you had added up a number of projects within the overall scope of the project at 2.5 million and one at 2.4.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yes.
That's two different structures, yes.
Okay.
Arena and a building.
The 2.5 is the arena and the 2.4 is the building?
Vice versa.
Opposite.
5 was a 60,000 square foot building to house the tractors, and the 2.4 was that arena.
What else do we have on top of those? We have the 2.5 million, we have the 2.4 arena,
1.5.
and the 1.5 and the tractor purchase. Do we have anything else with property and maintenance or anything like that?
I do not have, the sheriff department has agreed, talking to the sheriff a couple of months ago, has agreed to do the land clearing and preparation to build the structure. That's why Farm Bureau is engineering it. But as far as the cost of the maintenance of that, I do not have that, but I can work towards gathering that.
Okay, now, Mr. Sconyers, in your remarks earlier, it definitely captured that you were supportive of the vision. It seemed like that there may be a little bit of consternation with relinquishing all of the funds that are currently existing into the North TDT account, or was I missing that?
I have some hesitations because of there are other projects in different municipalities and areas where people will be asking for funding. And because it's coming out of that TDT, that North End TDT, it's not that I'm saying no or that I don't want to do that. I'm just saying I don't know what the overall use for this is going to be, because just like Ms. Kelly said a minute ago, now the event funding is going to, for the North End, is going to come out of that North End TDT and the marketing for sure. So then what's left after that? And then it's trying to figure out how much of this can be funded out of there and still leave some of that money for other projects that can come up. I'm in complete support of your project, Mr. Johnson. I think that the display is beautiful. I have high hopes for that entire area. I wasn't for sure about the continuing and ongoing events of the rodeo. Like you said, I had heard there would be some there that would help pay some of the maintenance and the upkeep, I think, too. So, and that's where I was going with an event or a festival type deal with it too. The more money you collect through those events helps you maintain that
Absolutely.
facility and
Are we
the tractors
revisiting
and
the
all.
600,000, or is that just gone? And so he's worried about
Well-
the 200 and some thousand to fund the north end?
Let me interject there. So, I mean, you got two issues you got to deal with. One is this something you want to do? And I think it's fair to talk about it all together, because even if you want to do it, you got to find the money. And it appears there's no money in North Walton outside of about $250,000 left. If the direction of this board is to revisit that prior decision at your last meeting, we will need a motion to reconsider that action, because based on this board's prior recommendation, again, you are a recommending body, it was to allocate 600,000 to marketing. You're welcome to do that. So you can reconsider that and not allocate it to this and just simply reconsider that decision. But if your goal is to put money out of that 600,000 that's already been allocated or recommended to be allocated, it has to be done after a motion for reconsideration. But at this point in time, North Walton TDT is the only source that this body can consider. This project, as it's proposed, does not fall under the original tourism development plan that encompasses the 5 cents that are collected south of the bay. So got to pull this out of the North Walton second plan.
Now, was there something in your remarks about the location? You had mentioned Freeport
Well,
being a
what-
heavily,
yes, sir. I was basically looking at the location that the agricultural center, and I may be terming it wrong, Mr. Johnson. If I am, I apologize. The agricultural center for the arena and what the FFA is going to do there, as well as the tractor exhibit. I think that looking at the growth in the area, I think that Freeport is growing north into Defeniak, and I feel that Baker and Crestview and are growing east towards Defeniak, into Mossy Head and into Defeniak as well. So I think those gaps are going to fill in over time. We've got one motel there's two, but I know that one's active in Mossy Head at the truck stop, and then we have several inside of Defeniak that would generate the TDT that we're talking about to backfill these holes that we would pull from. I just don't know. Marketing is not my niche. I'm learning on this board, but I don't know how. And I know that Ms. Kowalwise said that she could send people north to the tractor exhibit there to recoup some of that. I'm just thinking that it's a big vision that we can capture revenues from different things, whether it's a festival, like I was talking about, something like the Georgia Agricultural Exposition that you plant in North Florida, or whether it's the rodeos or whatever else we do. I know Mr. Prophet, and speaking to him in the past, at one point he wanted to put a community garden near the water tower in Defeniak. Something never progressed there. I don't know what it was, but then the next thing I saw in the commission meetings was that the location had been changed. We're going to move everything out there to mid-Mossy Head, basically. And it's a big area. There's a lot of acreage there to do this, so I think that would be good too. I'm just envisioning a lot of things that I need to tie.
What I'm envisioning is that this facility will serve all of Walden County. It's not going to serve just North Walden County because the superintendent's been successful in putting agriculture classes in every school. And I feel like that as these agriculture classes develop and the kids has the opportunity, and we're looking forward to the FFA program at the Freeport High School. Superintendent was successful in attaining $500,000 to build that ag program. He started the FFA ag program at the news facility at Hammett Bay. Talking to the teacher, they're going to have the FFA program there. We're hoping to have several FFA programs throughout this county. So this facility is going to serve all the students of Walden County, but we also going to have. We feel like it's located pretty centrally located between Mossy Head and Defuniak. It's about 5 miles getting in and off the interstate. If you come into South Walden, you get off the interstate in Mossy Head, visit this facility, go through Defuniak, spend your money, come to the beaches. We feel like that is an ideal location. And yes, we talking to the superintendent and talking to the sheriff. We would love to have that opportunity to have that produce across the street to grow that. So to your concern, I feel like if I'm correct on this, there's $200,000 plus being collected in North Walden. I feel like this $600,000 could not be benefited more than to spend it toward this facility because it would take all people of Walden County would benefit from this. I understand that Freeport and other locations is going to request the money. But we would love to have this. We'd love to have the 800,000. We'd take the 600,000, and then they can get theirs after the money is.
So in our efforts to build additional partnerships and relationships to capture all of the money that's going to be required to build the facility, maintain the facility, have we reached out to the school district to see if they had interest in partnering with us on that?
Talked to Mr. Hughes on several occasions, and at the time I spoke to him a year and a half or so ago, he said the funds was not there for him to fund it, but I'll be glad to take and ask him again for funding. I would be more than happy to. I'd be more than happy to talk to the sheriff department. I'd be happy to talk to anybody to get the funding.
Yeah. Let me offer one more before I lose my train of thought.
And
Clay, this question is probably for you. So, based on the statutory requirements of the tax use, with the North Walton existing and the South Walton existing, the North Walton can't use the South Walton bed tax collections. Are there any scenarios where there is a hybrid or a symbiotic relationship that would exist that would allow the funds to be used in a partnership effort? So let's say if the structure and the activities were located in the north jurisdiction, but the beds, the visitation was generated in the south jurisdiction, are we able to partner and use funds from both pots?
There are scenarios where that can happen. So let me step back, make sure we're all on the same page. The biggest limitation we have is the fact that we do have a North Walton collection fund and a South Walton collection fund. The best way to describe those funds is plans. We have an old plan, the original plan that deals with the 5 cents, and we have the new plan. The Attorney General has actually told us, Mr. Chairman, very clearly prior to that existing, that there was no lawful prohibition against the general use of TDT funds collected in South Walton for things in North Walton. So I know we've heard that many years. A lot of people have said that. That's the opposite of what the Attorney General told the chairman of this board many years ago. Now, there are specific categories. Building a sports center, for instance, the statute says within the sub-county district. So building a sports complex is one of those examples. There were limited examples, you cannot cross the bay. But otherwise, you could. But once we created and levied the tax north of the bay, we created 2 different taxing districts, all managed by this one entity. And the Attorney General, in describing that, specifically over in Bay County, where they have had this come up before, said that the restriction is not, now that you have 2, you can't spend money south-north or north-south. You can still cross the line. You can actually spend money collected in the north end, in the south end. What you described would be one such factor that this board and the BCC would need to consider. But what you have to consider it in is the establishment and the amendment of the plan. Right now, your original 5-cent plan does not have any language in it whatsoever that discusses promoting agritourism north of the bay. It doesn't discuss the construction of museums. It basically does not cover, in short form, 125-0104 5A1C or 5B being something that happens north of the bay for this use. Now, if you amend that ordinance and add that in and say we can do so, that's what this board would have to recommend and the BCC would have to do. And then the money could be used under the original plan, the south end money, so to speak, north of the bay for a project like this or any other project that's defined. Similarly, you can amend the north end plan to allow north end monies to flow back south if you see fit in doing so. But it ultimately has to be something where this board would have to find and amend each of those plans concurrently to do that. As it sits right now today, the limitation is one imposed by your own ordinances, not the state statute, not the Attorney General. There's a limitation that this board imposes on itself based on the fact the plans have not been amended.
Okay, so we still do, I mean, I hope that we're still looking for additional community partners. We're not just taking this on as a task of the TDC, correct?
Right.
We're working with the not-for-profit, we're working with potentially, are there other private industry that may have interest in partnering on this? Ms. Harris, did you have your hand up?
I have a couple of things. Suzanne Harris. I don't really need this thing. One thing is, I wasn't at the last meeting where it was decided to give $600,000 to advertising. I wasn't there. I'm a bed tax collector. I was disappointed that nobody asked Josh Conyers from the north end before the meeting, did they want to give up $600,000 to advertise something that they have been advertising for 2 years, and for the last 2 years, the bed tax is going down. And to me, when you advertise the same thing over and over expecting a different result, it's just stupidity, just in my opinion. Also, when y'all decided to go, I don't know if y'all voted on it or how we got to Authentic Walton, but I've had lots of phone calls from people in the north end that said, we don't want to be Authentic Walton. We want to be One Walton. So I called Josh one time and I said, Josh, have you been hearing anything about, did y'all vote on Authentic Walton? How did we just up and have our TDC board decide that we were going to be Authentic Walton? I think y'all tried that a few years ago and people didn't want it then. And now we're back doing advertising on Authentic Walton. I think when you have a board made up of people from the north, they should represent the north. And if they can't be at a meeting, we shouldn't vote on anything that spends the north end's money without Josh being able to go back to people and say, what do you want? And I really don't know what to say when people in the north end that are farmers and other people call me and say, Suzanne, every time you get up, You talk about one Walton, and now we're back to authentic Walton. So I feel like I feel like Josh always backs and Amy backs what the South End wants and what Jennifer needs for more money for her events. But I feel like the board doesn't always ask Amy, who Freeport is growing fast, and Josh, what his district wants. And I think for y'all to vote on something that important, when Josh wasn't even at the meeting, he was off with his son at a doctor's appointment, I just think that's ridiculous. Now, as far as raising the money goes, I'm all for the Tractor Museum. I have gotten out and I have met with Steve Denton, who's in the back of the room, that are working on the racetrack for North Walton. They have offered a lot of different ideas on how they could help us get the money. And one thing that they offered was, I don't know if any of you know it or not, but tractors started with Porsche building tractors, Ferrari building tractors, Lamborghini building tractors, and Maserati building tractors. That's how those car dealerships started, as tractor builders. He's going to have at his facility, he's going to have a museum. I don't know if y'all watched last week the race at the Barber track in Birmingham, but it was the, you will see, they don't have bleachers, they just have grass, but you would see that they had a gorgeous museum. And Steve and his people are talking about building a car museum. And I asked him, what would you think about putting building a tractor museum next to with the car museum? And I don't know how many of y'all have been to New York to the 9/11 thing, but you would never go there and spend a whole day if all they had were pictures on a wall, tractors and pictures, or what happened. But they have little vignettes that you look at and you physically see people jumping out of the building, and it tells the story as you go through. And I'd love to see something like where you had a video, just a short video, when people come through the Tractor Museum to show off how they started by sports car people and how it merged in to sports cars. And then you would go into the building where there will be Lamborghinis and Porsches and display cars for people to look at. And I think people will come from all over to see that museum. I think if we could get the people like Steve Dutton to help raise money for this, and we could get Joe to go to St. Joe Paper and ask St. Joe to put in some money, I think we're going to get what we want. And I think there are other people out there that are willing to help with this. And if y'all can't give $600,000, then I think, we've still got to go back to the BC. If you give us $800,000, we still got to go back to the BCC and depend on the BCC to give us $800,000. And they don't even know what kind of budget they're going to have. But I think the Tractor Museum can be a great asset for us. But I do think if we continue to spend money on Authentic Walton, we should have backed up and asked the North what they want to be called. And I think we have to someday realize that we are not two different Walton counties. We've got to help each other. We've got to merge. We've got to take each other into consideration. The North End's got to take us into consideration, but we mainly have to take them into consideration on what they want. And personally, I think the North End should have their own board, and then they should be able to decide what they want to spend on advertising. I don't think our advertising company, I don't advertise. I don't let them advertise for me. We do our own TV commercials that we're running all over the United States. We do our own advertising. Amy does her own advertising. Jenny Daly does, Tiffany's mother does her own advertising. So I think the advertising is great, but it's got to work hand in hand with what the people want to accomplish at the end of the day. So that's my thought. I would be happy. I don't know if Steve would even come up here and say something. Would you, Steve? But I think we've got to go out to the community and get them involved and get all the help we can get so that when we build a tractor museum, people really come. It's really nice. It's really a first-class operation. And as far as the rodeo goes, I think that rodeo is going to be absolutely bring in tons and tons of people to the north end. And if you do the farmers market correctly, like Montgomery did theirs, they are, you can't get a parking place at the Montgomery Farmers Market. It's filled with people from Atlanta that bring their wares, and it's not just farm. It's not corn and wheat potatoes. It's all the farming in Montgomery and Alabama, but it's also people that make Easter dresses for children. It's people that do Christmas decorations. It's people that bring in everything. And you've better leave early, like you have to leave early to get to Morrison Springs, because if you don't leave early, you're not going to get a parking place. And my mother, who was 92, went to the Montgomery Farmers Market every month because a little lady came once a month from Atlanta who made white socks, but she took lace and she put the lace on the top of the socks. And my mother bought those, and when she came for the winter to Edgewater, she had her little white socks on every day, and all the snowbirds wanted to know where she got them. So when she went back, she took an order from the snowbirds, and she went to the farmer's market, and nobody should have ever let her drive at that age, I can tell you, to Montgomery, but she and her girlfriends did it, and she brought socks back for everybody. You're going to find out the farmer's market has the ability to do some wonderful things. And then people are going to want to come. But I don't care what you advertise right now. Amy and I may disagree on this, but you've been advertising the lake, the almost perfectly round lake. You've been advertising the haunted houses. None of my people are driving north at night to see a haunted house because they're just not going to do it. But we can't go to Morrison Springs because y'all are full. You can't get there. If you get there after 8:30, you don't have a parking place. I can't tell you how mad people in the South will be if they drive to Morrison Springs and get there at 9:30 and they can't get a parking place. They got to come back and go to the beach. So we got to get great things to advertise and not just keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And I would like to ask y'all to just consider changing from Authentic Walton to One Walton so that we're not all divided. I know that Bay divides us, but we have to be a team. We have to help each other, and we have to work together.
Mr. Dent, before you, Ms. Harris had a question. You had mentioned St. Joe. Have you had a conversation with them?
No, I have not. Joe, I asked Joe, and Joe has talked to them.
Sure.
April, or in October of 2023, I met with April Wilkes with the St. Joe Foundation. She went and observed the tractor museum. She really enjoyed it. She said that we had to get the 501(c) for them to be willing to do so. It took a year. She explained it would take a year to get that. It did. It took a year. And from that time, Dr. Shepard got sick, and then dealing with his family since September. We finally got the agreement in March. It is hopefully, because the last contact I have with Ms. Wilkes is, what other money do you have? What other partnership do you have? I'm hoping today that y'all will vote to give the $600,000, and then I can call her, get in touch with her, that we have the support of the TDC, and I feel like that their board will be more acceptable in funding. So yes, I have, and I will continue to work with the foundation.
May I ask a question about partnerships?
Sure.
Considering Dr. Shepard's history with the University of Florida and the Extension Office in Defuniak Springs, have there been any discussions with the University of Florida as a partner?
We have had a number of people from the State Farm Bureau, from IFAS, from other organizations come and look at the collection, but they have not come up with any funding. But we will continue to ask. But, you know, it's kind of like they just do not have it in their budget, but we will continue to ask. But prior to Dr. Shepard's passing, I'd say that we probably was able to show that collection 4 or 5 times a month to different people. Everybody loves the collection, but we yet to receive the funding to do so. Thanks to Mr. Dan Curry, we did have a golf tournament, and it did raise some money, and that's a plus, and we appreciate that exposure.
Mr. Denton, okay. Mr. Denton, what is your interest in this project?
Yes, hello, everyone. I'm Steve Denton. Good to see all of you. So as we're looking at our project, we've been talking to different sponsor organizations, different corporations, automobile dealerships, manufacturers like Ford Motor Company that are very interested in partnering and doing things with us. We've also talked to, just as one example, a person who lives in Seaside, who also lives in New Orleans, who has a collection of 65 classic race cars. And they say they have them in a warehouse in New Orleans, and they love to have them here. And that they would love this to be the place where classic car collectors from around the country, there's no one place where they are. So they could attract others that would be here, like the Amelia Island, collection and shows and fundraisers and that type of thing. So when I started my career at Ford Motor Company, by the way, and I was on the team that spun out Ford Tractor. And so I know the connection between automobile companies and the tractor companies going back to Lamborghini. In fact, Ferrari told Lamborghini when they got into racing that they should stick to tractors, which is pretty interesting. But there's a rich history there and a tie-in between the two that I would love to be part of in some way or another. But when it comes to private donations to these types of things, that's what we're trying to do on the north side and for Walton County. So I personally, I'll make a commitment right here today to the foundation for the purchase of the tractors. I'll commit $50,000 of my own money to do this, and I'll go help others from a private standpoint help raise money to do this, because I'm 100% supportive.
Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Hafner.
Okay, a couple things, and sir, they weren't for you, sir, I apologize. A couple comments. Freeport is not going to be requesting TDT. We don't have any hotels, so no one needs to worry about Freeport asking for North Walton TDT money, because we're not going to request that. So just wanted to put that out there. And as far as the marketing plan that we had already talked about, I agree with you, Amy, that, I don't know, hindsight's always 20/20, but I would be willing to rediscuss that and potentially do less or something to help with this, because I 100% support this project and want to give Mr. Johnson the amount that he asked for to contribute, because they need, about $5+ million. So we're giving a small portion to what they need to complete this project. That was all.
Anyone, Ms. Edwards?
Thank you. My question actually relates to earlier on in the presentation. I think there was a mention of a 90-day review for the contract, and I believe you had said that March was when you came into agreement for the amount. And so my question more so falls on, the $600,000 or what that contract and agreement would be. So what time would you have to make sure that you have enough funds to implement that contract and purchase in that 1.5 million? And was I correct on that 90-day review of those terms?
We have a 90-day option. We have 90 days to come up with the funding with a 90-day option.
Okay.
So we have 180 days.
Okay.
I feel like is that as long as we headed into the direction that, we could get the 600 or 800, I'm gonna ask for 8, y'all give me 6, I'll be happy with it. That would go a long way, but we still, I want to try to meet the 180 days.
Right.
This family has been dealing with this now for 10 years. Dr. Shepard, this is the heirs, and I just like for them to know we either going to do this, not do it. Now, if we come up to 140 days and we need 200,000, I'm sure they'll work with us. But I want to try to do this. One thing I've realized trying to work with Walton County on these projects, it takes forever. I mean, you having a conversation, and a year later, you're still having a conversation. And it's been 10 years on the tractor museum, 8 years on the arena. We just need to get this done. You know, some of these kids are gonna be graduated and gone and will not have the opportunity. We need to get it done for the kids. So I'm gonna try to do this within 190 days.
I appreciate that. I'm not a fan of the bureaucratic process, but I love to measure twice and then cut. And I wanted to make sure that we had an understanding, because obviously we're not the final decision. And we need to, you know, if we move forward, need to make a motion, and then it, you know, obviously going into the BCC. But the other comment I wanted to make is, as we look at and this might be for Clay as well, but as we look at our strategic planning and JLL, I would like for this to be discussed in that May presentation, and as we look at kind of the budget in the future, knowing that there will be other requests, but we make a decision difference on the marketing, and knowing that we want to build a little bit more over on the north side, that we need to really be thoughtful about this, so you're not having to come, you know, to us in 180 days, and it maybe takes less than 10 years.
This is asking a lot, but is there a possibility you could take and visit what Mr. Atkinson said and just amend the structure of South Bend TDC to have the funding, so we can just get this over with and have a ribbon cutting? I mean, Dan said he likes to go to ribbon cutting. I'd love to have a ribbon cutting if y'all just write us a check.
Not getting that done in 30 days.
Y'all got $180-something million in the fund. Y'all won't miss that.
A couple
I
months.
appreciate the direct eye contact that you made with me specifically, but that's, I'm not willing to answer that right now.
Thank you.
Can I go ahead?
Yeah, you reckon?
I'd like
You
to.
have a question or
I was just
comment?
going to make a motion to reconsider the 600,000 in marketing. I think we're there. We've all discussed it. There was more to that, just so everybody understands. There was certainly more. There was a research facet of it. Right, wrong, or indifferent, we supported it. We voted it through. But I would like to make a motion to reconsider the decision to recommend to the BCC allocating $600,000 of the North End funds to marketing.
Second.
Okay, so is since we're in a brand new meeting, is the motion, is the parliamentary to reconsider what was prior adopted, or is a brand new item that it would redirect the monies?
So we have to reconsider it first, because you have a motion that's already been adopted by this very board has been done. So once you take the motion for reconsideration up, there's really not much to debate on it. You can go straight to the vote. Once that reconsideration has happened, now that money is back in play and you can decide what to do with it.
Okay, and that money, the 600,000, is that coming directly out of the North Walton TDC money?
That was the specific agenda item, was to allocate 600 of the 800 and some odd $1,000 directly to marketing. In fact, the original plan was to direct all of it. The council discussed directing only a portion of it and landed at the 600,000 option B.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Bless you. Is there any discussion?
I would like to allocate all 600.
Well, hold on, you got to
let's
reconsider
dispose of
first. We
this
cannot
first,
talk about
yeah.
what to go with.
Yeah.
And it's a ministerial act, considering the board is choosing to reconsider this, and public comment would then be on the subsequent discussion. So you don't need public comment on this one.
Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Show the motion, show the item reconsidered now.
So it is now open for consideration, and that's where public comment can come in.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Sconiers, if you want to make a motion.
Make a motion to reallocate the 600,000 to Mr. Johnson's tractor.
He asked for 800, but it's up to you. Your motion, and the motion would be to recommend to the BCC, it be allocated there and to direct staff to develop a memorandum of agreement or understanding with this not-for-profit entity that would address those funding dollars. Our intention would be to effectively use a term sheet model, not indifferent than Triumph Gulf Coast, where we are pledging the money, but we're going to be the last money in. If they don't get the rest of the money,
How much is in the account?
880.
195 or so.
895 is the current reserve balance.
I would feel more comfortable starting at the 600 level.
Yeah, I think so too.
And then that wouldn't require any budgetary maneuvers at this point. and then we can work our way to the goal if that's
I agree.
Yeah, that's good.
desire. Okay,
And Mr. Johnson said he was good if he asked for 8 and we gave him 6, so that worked. for
So
him,
will you
too.
amend your motion to what I stated, Mr. Sconyers?
Yes, sir.
That's the 600 recommendation to the BCC, directing staff to develop a memorandum of agreement
okay, we have
with them.
we have a motion by Commissioner Sconyers.
I'll
and
second it.
seconded by Ms. Hafner. Is there public discussion? Mr. Bagby?
Bagby, B-A-G-B-Y. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would ask y'all to amend your motion and recommend to the BCC that they allocate 600,000 of TDT from North Walton and match that 600,000 from the general fund for the county. This is a holistic approach that you should be taking for the money and for the funding of the Tractor Museum. The thing is real simple, is it's not just a destination marketing organization, it's a destination development organization. And we understand that, y'all understand that. In the South End in particular, you talk bike paths, you talk beach accesses, you talk walkovers, you talk all the things that are not just marketing that the TDC has supported, that this council has supported in the past. It's the same thing. You know, you go back to the first presentation. What's the product? What is the product up there besides Morrison Springs? What is the product that you're going, general awareness marketing, that's great. You get general awareness marketing when you cross the state line and you see the big sign that says, "Welcome to Walton County," or Walton County established in 1824. You need to have a product, and y'all all understand that because you have products. And so I would say, you look at it, whether it's St. Joe, whether it's the motorsports place, whether it's individuals, whether it's golf tournaments, there's got to be a holistic, and y'all are the seed money. You're every project, every endeavor starts off with that first step. This is the first step to help those folks. And so when you take that first step, then you get the people in St. Joe and people in other places that say, oh, well, they've already got 600,000, or they've already got 1.2 million, or they've already got, whatever is raised in the golf tournament. Sure, we want to be part of that because that's the future and we want our name associated with that. So I applaud the motion as it exists, but we need to ask the county to step up too, because the county benefits, not just tourism benefits, the county benefits with this project. And I will say that, I am the proud owner of a blue corduroy jacket, so if you understand, you understand. But I would just say, take this first step, help these folks out, and let's actually build a product that we can market that brings people to Walton County. Thank you.
I would respectfully request, if that is the desire of the TDC, that you discuss the matter, not make it part of your motion. Certainly, the board's discussion can be carried back to the BCC by BCC member Drake, that there was discussion at the TDC based on public comment that the TDC is offering this and would look forward to and appreciate a match from the general fund because they do believe this is important. Given that it's only being used out of North Walton TDT dollars and there's limited resources in that fund. But in terms of, can you actually make a motion that asks the BCC to do something with money you're not statutorily tasked with? It's a legal nullity. So, I mean, I'm not going to stop you if you feel compelled to do it, but it has no binding effect and it really doesn't, it's outside the purview of this council. So I would recommend against it. But certainly if this council feels that way and agrees with Mr. Bagby, Mr. Drake can carry that message, asking Mr. Algren that that was discussed, and that would be something for the board to independently consider with the general fund it oversees.
I think we'd be better suited, speaking to the commissioners. I'm not comfortable to try to tell them how to spend their money and their budget. As an elected official myself, I don't want other government entities telling me how to, use our funds. So I don't have a problem calling the commissioners, speaking with them, asking them about it, but I'm not comfortable amending my second for that.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
And I would say we've got 2 commissioners in this room already. When it goes back before them, I have a feeling that they're going to look at that from there. I appreciate the words, Mr. Bagby, and the thought into it. I do feel like Ms. Hafner does, and not to tell them how to spend their money, but I feel that we can get that buy-in and that support from them as well. So thank you.
I think in the effort of diplomatic relations, it's always best to be humble and not assertive. So, I would agree with Ms. Hafner on that. All right, so we have, is there any additional public comment? Ms. Moore?
Thank you. I just wanted to say something from a more general perspective. I think it's a great opportunity. I loved what Mr. Sconier said earlier about developing programming around the museum that would be a big draw. And I'd say, Mr. Johnson mentioned it's centrally located in this area. It's also centrally located in the southeast. So I think thinking big and saying, what can we do that would draw people from all over the southeast and maybe beyond? You know, Commissioner Drake, I thought you made an astute observation when this came up at a different meeting, that there's a museum in, I think it was Alabama, that you drive by that you've never stopped at. And that's what we don't want this to turn into, and that's what that helps keep from happening, right? So, and I'm not saying that the tractors aren't interesting in a draw. I too toured the tractors, and it was amazing, and I think that's great. But we've got to think about this for decades to come and what's going to continue that draw going forward. And I'd also say, and I said this before, that very briefly, I used to go to West Virginia every year and raft the Gauley River, and they built an entire ecotourism industry around that up there in West Virginia. And we would go for a few days. It was all about the rafting, but we stayed in a bed and breakfast for a few nights. We ate out every meal. They had a really neat downtown, historic downtown nearby that reminds me of Defuniak. We've got a burgeoning revitalization effort happening in Defuniak Springs that I think could house it. I kept thinking when this discussion was happening earlier, if you build it, they will come, when there was an issue about we don't have a lot of units in the north end to house people when they're here visiting. I think it's better said, if you plan it well and you build it, they will come. I think the housing, you know, the lodging will take care of itself if you build something really amazing. We've already got a lot of the ingredients right here in Walton County to have that, and a lot of it is already being taken advantage of to make it amazing. I think if you start with who are we appealing to, and say, then how do we market to those people? And I do think some of those people are people that come to the beach for a week and they want to go do something different for a couple of days. But I also think we'd end up with a good number of tourists that come here and they want to be here for a week and they want to go to the beach for a day or two and take advantage of everything else Walton County has to offer north of the bay while they're here otherwise. So I just think that planning is critical. And I think there's an infrastructure that needs to be built north of the bay that then you can market heavily and have people coming and enjoying it and taking advantage of it. That last comment will also not, it doesn't have to change the character of Walton County north of the bay. It fits in with the culture. So it's a great opportunity, I think.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, no. Show it adopted 7-0. Thank. All right, let's move to tab 7. Kelly?
Hey there, Kelly Carter, Director of Marketing. Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, council members. So I always bring the media plan to you guys in this meeting because of how we have to secure media, and we need it secure for the co-op program, and we do that before the budgeting happens. So a couple of things that I wanted to talk about is when we're looking at the media that we've put together, we do have a 3-tier system where we talk about North Walton, South Walton, and then Walton County Tourism. And so one of the things that, you know, we're looking at it is I just want to talk about, the fact that we're not looking at historical assumptions and, pandemic or anything like that. We built this plan on what's actually happening in the market today. And as most of you know, booking windows are very different now than they've ever been in the past. Booking windows are either 180 days out or 0 to 30 days. There's like nothing in between. So we're trying to capture some of that and get people to do that in between so that, you all with accommodations know that your places are going to be full. There's really less activity between that traditional 60 and 90-day window, which we've really enjoyed in the past. And so what we are trying to do is lead with long lead brand storytelling, which supports early planners, and the always-on digital and tactical retargets that really talk to those people that are the right now, I want to go somewhere. And then by the amount of digital that we have, it kind of gives us that flexible flighting that kind of allows us to pivot wherever, we see the need or our accommodations partners see the need. So a couple of things that, when we're talking about ADR and that sort of thing, obviously we want to, keep ADR high as possible, which also means, thinking about how you're pricing your accommodations and how you're putting them together. Seasonality is completely less predictable. Like we used to have a defined shoulder season, a defined summer season, really defined. But the whole work from home model is not going away. So people can travel whenever these days, especially if you have younger children that aren't in school, and homeschool is growing so much more as well. So we're not seeing those peak months and with, drastic drop off in September, and we're not seeing those. So we're trying to make sure that we continue that. So we do have like I said earlier, the 3-brand strategy. And so when we're looking at, what South Walton has, really looking at the visitors that go to these places. So with South Walton, we're going to continue to, do our best to attract affluent leisure and group sales audience and the luxury and high income households. One of the things that research tells us right now is luxury travel is still up and people are still looking for that getaway. They're just not they're either looking for it to plan it 6 months out, or they're looking for, I don't want to be at work next week, so I want to go to the beach. So that's kind of how they're looking at it. We're going to continue to focus on that high household income in the core and emerging markets. And we're going to continue to do our best to drive what we call book now, get the view you want. So that's kind of what we're looking at for South Walton. For North Walton, we have strategically looked at who comes there based on the information that we have received from, we've worked with Main Street to Funiac. We have worked with all of the accommodations as far as the RV parks and all of that, which do see a lot of people in and out. We've also worked with local businesses, like I said, Main Street to Funiac, the Chautauqua Winery, anybody that kind of has people in and out, asking them where they're from, what they're doing, why they're here. And so we did a complete study on that. And some of the things that we found out that travelers continue to explore that secondary destination is because they want to disperse out, kind of like what Amy was talking about, like get them off of the beach and, today's Wednesday, they're sunburned. They need something to do. So making sure that they know that's available. But in addition to that, just not talking about the luxury visitors, just looking for those people that are looking for that drivable vacation because they just want to get out for a 3-day weekend or something. But one of the things that you see in millennials and Gen X is they really want that authentic experience. They want less saturated destinations, and they want to have charm to go along with that, which kind of is what all of that is about. So that's kind of where we are with those. And then lastly, we kind of have community stewardship, reputation management, which is what we call Walton County Tourism. We don't spend a lot of money on that, but it is important that we spend some time and some effort to make sure everyone knows all of the things that Josh and his team are doing. If I don't tell you and the residents that, they just had a ribbon cutting yesterday for a new regional beach access. What's the name of that, Josh? Seagrove. So I couldn't remember. So, those are all of those things that also helps us let people in the community know about the tram system, that lets people know in the community about all of the things that we have going on that is visitor facing, but residents can enjoy as well. So we've put together 339 total co-op opportunities for South Walton, and we've put together, I lost my number. 31 total Authentic Walton co-op opportunities. And when I say a co-op opportunity, this allows anyone to buy in anything that is available. That's TripAdvisor, that's any of the media that we have available, that's digital, it's all of that. And then we also have the print. You'll see prints down a little bit just because we are trying our best not to do general awareness. We want to actually target the people that are coming here. And through digital, we can do that, whereas print really just kind of starts the story. So we're really trying to meet people where they are in the travel funnel. Either it's you know about us, you don't know about us, or you know about us, but you don't know where you need to be. So we're really looking at digital for that. And so I've put this plan together with all of that in mind. And as you well know, this plan is divided into different sections. And if you pull up this piece that I had earlier, you can see how much is dedicated to each one of those sections. Obviously, South Walton Leisure is going to be the most, but as you can see, we have print, digital, linear TV, which is going to be ads you can't pause on Hulu. Leisure outdoor, and then local outdoor. And then we still have some money for things that come along the way. So I have, the first one I have is South Walton Leisure, and that's about $6.6 million for South Walton Leisure. And then additionally, we have group sales. So remember, group sales is more than just groups. It's weddings, it's sports marketing, it's all of those things rolled into one. And I've got that's a lot. And we also include CVent. CVent is where we get leads from. We are very heavily involved in CVent. It really helps us distribute leads out to our partners that have groups. So for sales group total, we have $607,000. Additionally, back to events that everybody loves to talk about. So there's event grants this year, and there's event sponsorships this year. So traditionally in the past, we've only had events, and what we do is every season we create ads that talk about all those events on our website, and those go out as well. And so for South Walton, for those events, we have about 352,000 plus, and then for Authentic Walton, we have about 23.5. Beach safety is obviously one of our most important things that we do. And so we have about $384,000 allocated to that. There is literally not one more thing local I can buy that I haven't already bought within what it talks about here. So ultimately, the whole plan is from the media is $8.1 million, a little plus. But one of the things that I task the agency with is, if we're going to spend that kind of money, what else can I get for it? So additionally, I task them with providing added value. Do not purchase anything that does not have added value. And you'll notice there's a little smaller sheet. You can probably see it much better on your computer, but there's a little smaller sheet. And as of now, with just the media that's secured, none of the opportunistics and some of the things hasn't come in, I've secured $7.1 million in added value. So if you have any specific questions about the media plan, I'd be happy to answer them. Some of the things, just to give you guys an idea of some of the things that we're doing in Authentic Walton that is a little different in where we are. Obviously, Karen attended a show that's about bus tours, stopover tours, so we're promoting that as well. And then through our media plan, we have several things in there. One of them is that we think is interesting is gas station TV, where you're stuck there and the little ad pops up and it talks about, have you been to Authentic Walton, some of that kind of stuff. But additionally, it's very similar to what it's been in the past, and we have anywhere from 20 to 25 partners that participate. And we usually, we take this money and any money that's made off of this, we reallocate into this budget to pay off those things and get more media. So this goes straight back into buying more media, any money that's made off those co-ops.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you for all of the details. I just wanted to ask, based on our prior action, do we need to reduce some of what the spend was for Authentic Walton? I know you mentioned maybe taking the opportunistic section out.
Yeah, I just got to see, my biggest concern is, obviously, I'm budgeting, how, we only have an idea of how much it's going to make, and it's 8% down.
Right.
So I'm trying, obviously, we won't spend the money if it's not there. So when we get there, anything we're contracted to do, but that's why the opportunistic is there, and if we don't use it, we don't use it.
Okay.
Everything in here is dependent upon it being available. This is just,
Sure.
and again,
Just
it's like
wanted to
our,
ask.
yeah, our budget is so far out, it takes so long to put this together and be able to do this. But yes, if the funds are not there, we would not spend them. And I work really close. I have a mega spreadsheet of everything that we do that I track monthly by the bills and all of that to make sure that we're tracking where we're supposed to be, so that if something is not right, I can look further out and say, okay, let's not do this, or it looks like we're going to have more money than, when we can figure it out from there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Edwards, I kind of lean on you for this space. How does this blueprint look at first glance?
We should lean on Amy more so because I am, again, like Josh, not a marketing person, but I am
Coming to
very,
her next.
right, but I am very, very fiscally conservative on some of this. I think one of my main questions, because, we talk in marketing in general, and I know from our experience, and obviously my mother's here, but Ben and I's throughout the country, how much money we personally put into our own marketing. How much of the co-ops are actually being used?
Everything sells out.
Okay.
Everything that, and even before, we've had to go back and add. Last year, everything completely sold out, and we went back and used the opportunistic to purchase more digital media so that we could offer more. It completely sells out typically.
Okay. And then how are we tracking, and I know that, marketing in general, we throw a QR code, we throw something in, but you can't necessarily track exactly what campaigns and what media sources you're getting the best ROI. But how are we personally tracking that? Because I know that you've chosen some new sources this year based on, overall trends, and then obviously opening up to the New York area with flights. How are we tracking the success of some of those marketplaces?
So for all of the digital, we have a pulse report weekly, and it shows the number of leads that come from each place, who came to the website, where they came from, and all of that. We look at where they're coming from, where they're not coming from. If we need to, since it's so fluid, we can move it around. Like if we're not seeing Dallas or Houston show up like we should, maybe we move a little out of New York to put it in there. So we're tracking it weekly, and because of all of the new fun things with AI and programmatic partnerships and all of that, we're able to track it weekly. And then if you participate in the actual co-op, you get your own report, and everything tells you where it is. And it goes to your website and everything.
And this is obviously for spend, but in terms of themes and campaigns, how much more are we planning on spending for generating some of these?
Okay, so I have the whole budget in there. It's approximately,
Because I know we talked as one of our goals, and I appreciate you put it on here, but that the younger generation is help really driving the execution of reservations,
Yes.
right? And while they're not picking up the phone or, putting the credit card down, they are very influential. And so I appreciate you putting that a part of the plan, but I also know too that campaign probably needs to shift to cater towards that.
yeah,
generation.
and so we have money in this year to evolve the campaign. We've had the campaign that we have now for 3 years. And one of the reasons we want to evolve the campaign is because if I could show you our neighbors all the way from cola to cola, how we were the first ones that had that type of campaign, the listen quietly and come feel and all of that. All of our neighbors are doing that now. So we're trying to differentiate ourselves from that. So we do have some money in there for 2 additional ads this year to do that, to kind of grow that campaign. And we're looking at how we want to do that based on, I did focus groups in Dallas and Atlanta based on what people who have actually came to the destination more than 5 times, what they want to see, what draws them, and that sort of thing.
And I'll move it to Amy because I know I was asking a little bit more marketing side, but I tried to look because I know we had printed this out last year to see kind of a year over year.
About 5%.
5%.
Typically, we go up 7, but just come where we are. And we added that extra $1 million in there last year that you all gave me. I kept it at 5. And that was that was not adding more money. That was mainly moving it around and thinking about the cost of how much things went up. Because last year we were completely flat. I didn't go up any. So we hadn't went up since the 2 years ago.
Okay. Because I figured that print is getting more and more expensive, and I know that we're dropping that, but we still have a pretty significant amount of print.
So I'm glad you brought that up. Every time I suggest, print gets bought before anything. Just so you know, print gets bought before anything. Everybody wants to be in those pretty glossy magazines. That is the most expensive and the least trackable thing that we do. I'm setting it up this year to maybe show some more ROI that we can show with digital to maybe decrease that print next year so that we can put that money that we're spending into more digital. But it's baby steps because that's the bulk of the opportunities other than the print opportunities. There are so many of them and they sell out immediately. So
Those are mine just for now.
Amy?
I think one of the questions I just want a thorough understanding on is what is the service fee?
So that's how Zender gets paid. There is no markup on it. So the number here where it says that is the hard cost for the media, it's written in their contract that they get 12% of the media. That's how they do the production. That's how they make the ads. That's how everything gets done. There's no billing outside of that.
Okay. So basically it covers the production of the ads,
and
the placement,
the trafficking of the ads, all of the things that go back and forth to the partners, everything that has to do with buying media. It covers all of the time where they spend on to get the media and every bit of that. So they get no additional money other than that.
Okay. And then...
And it's separated out like that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's separated out like that so that you can see direct what's a pass-through cost versus what is. So if you look at the top page, South Walton Leisure Net Media total, that's 6.6. That's a pass-through cost. Those are the actual hard costs for that.
Right. No, and I appreciate the transparency. It's very helpful.
I did that last year because I thought it was so hard to understand or it was hard for me to explain it. So I tried to make it much more transparent this year.
Okay, and then just 2 other questions. I'm assuming AI efforts are covered under digital?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. So many of them. Okay. And that's one of the things that I'm very excited that we were able to bring into this year. Some of the reporting and stuff that we can plug some formulas and stuff in. They're giving us that reporting weekly so we know where we need to move that around and to move the needle.
Perfect. And then only observation I wanted to make, because I've talked about this a lot, but I'm not sure what term you use, but as you look at a different type campaign or a new vision that speaks possibly to the younger population, I also think really a campaign that screams all of the efforts we have made in Josh's arena, that screams beach is available.
Yes, ma'am. Everything.
All of the negativity that still remains.
Yes, ma'am. If I get to go through my report, you'll be able to actually see what we're doing and how we're going to focus that into next year. I mean, we have got really good call to actions about where we're putting that so that this money gets spent wisely so that they know where it is. And that through storytelling, through we're like, book now to get the view you want, book now to get the beach you want. We're constantly telling them, you can come to the beach, because really and truly, we don't really hear from visitors much that they can't get to the beach. So, because when someone calls us and asks where they want to go to the beach, the first thing I ask them is, where are you staying? So once they tell me where they're staying, and if they say Newman Daily or they say Ocean Reef, I'm like, oh, he's got that covered. He has beach for everybody that he's, trying to utilize. Or if you're staying with Homeowners Collection, you have the whole Seaside Beach there to your availability. And the only people that take those calls are myself and Matt, because we want to make sure that we're always saying the same thing.
Sure. No, that's great.
Anything else? All right, what is our recommendation?
We need a motion.
But what is the recommendation?
Oh.
The chair's entertaining.
To make the motion for the media plan to go to the BCC.
I mean, that would be the form of the motion, but I'm asking collectively, what is our desire at this point? Do we want to adopt this in full? Do we want to make any modifications? Is this something that we want to piece out? Or do we need to take action today? What's kind of the collective agreement among the board?
Does the BCC approve this as part of the budget or as an independent freestanding document?
We approve this as an independent freestanding document so that I can sell co-ops, because they start in October and it takes 90 days to work them. So I have just enough time to sell co-ops and those people who want to participate in those October ones. So we get this approved outside of the budget.
Right.
Makes perfect sense.
Thoughts, Mr. Taylor? What is, Clay, do we need to take action today?
Yes, we always do need you to approve this.
Okay, so is there a motion?
Motion to approve the media plan.
Okay, motion by Councilman Conyers, seconded by?
I'll second.
Second by Vice Chair Coble-Wise. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none. Any public comment? Seeing none. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Should adopted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0.
May I ask a quick question? Will you send us some of those campaigns prior to the
Oh, yeah.
strategic planning with JLL? I'd like to have some of that for our discussions.
Yeah, in addition to that, we also have like the culinary campaign and all of those things. So we've kind of got it as like a tiered campaign. One's awareness, one tells you what you can do, one tells you where you can eat, and that sort of thing.
And any of the assets that you put together as well that you're doing in print for the Guide for North.
Oh, yes, ma'am. That's actually ready. You can actually see it on authenticwalton.com. I'll send everybody a link to it so you can actually look at it. It's completely ready. It's been on the website for about 2 months. Just getting it printed has been hard. Paper is hard to find, or specific paper is hard to find.
Okay. All right. Next, we'll bring up the director's updates.
It's me.
Has everyone had a chance to look at the marketing plan? Do we like it? Anything additional you'd like to add that's not in the print?
No, sir. The only thing that I wanted to bring up was, this is the call to actions we're looking at, is the book ahead and leave your worries behind, because that's what in the focus groups, what people told us is they book their trip and then they don't have to worry anymore. So these are some of the things, these came straight out of focus groups of people who've been here before who are interested in this type of thing. And then we have the direct flight ones as well, and the non-direct flights, and then the drive market. I really like the exit right towards turquoise water. And then, Tiffany, this is some of the campaign imagery that we're using, so you can see that. And then the new Walton County FL Tourism site is live. Everything that you ever wanted to know about what we're doing is there. It's very easy to use, and we really try to take into consideration not only the information that you all want, but the information the public wants. And it also integrates nicely with the connection that you guys receive monthly. So now if something happens in the connection, it's always living on Walton County FL Tourism. And then only other thing I wanted to bring up was National Travel and Tourism Week is May 3rd through the 9th, and we have a lot of things planned for that. So you'll be hearing about that from us as well.
Okay. Nicole? looks like we've got some earned media highlights and a couple of bullet points you want to offer in addition to what's.
Sure.
in
Good
print.
morning, Chair and council members. Nicole Everett, Communications Director. Yeah, I won't go through all of that, but a really robust period for earned media in the last couple of months. I want to emphasize that our, make sure you guys can see it. All right, I want to emphasize that all of our number of articles, when we talk about those, are print and digital articles. They are covering the entire destination, both South and Authentic Walton. And in fact, within those impressions in the articles that we cover, I would say we target 15 Authentic Walton mentions within our PR media plan. We've already got 14 of those. Those are unique mentions of different assets, experiences within Authentic Walton. So everything we do includes all of those destinations. The other thing I want to just call out, we do have a group FAM coming in the next week, April 16th through the 19th. Really trying to play off the fact that we've got the direct to the Gulf flight opportunities right now. But a great group that's coming for a really special FAM trip. And then the other thing I want to point out is that we're going to roll out a storyteller bureau. And this is really another opportunity. It's a very narrow, narrative-driven network of local experts to give local voices to working with our travel journalists and writers to really give that authentic experience and storytelling about this area. So we're excited to roll that out as well. Kelly's mentioned some of the other things that we are working on, and also you know that you can see some of those titles, publication titles. You can access them on our website, wcfltourism.com. And really encourage you to do so. Is there any question I can answer?
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. All right. Karen, you want to give us a quick snapshot of something unique?
Yes,
different in the
I'll
visitor
be
count?
quick. Just a few things I wanted to make. Well, I'm Karen Morris, Director of Sales, and we in the group sales team were very active in February and March. We participated in 5 industry events, so it was we were hit the ground running those 2 months. So I have a recap here, but in the interest of time, I'll save you that. If anybody has any questions about these events that we participated in, please let me know. I have numbers of leads that were generated, and we actually even had a couple of contracts that went definite in groups that are coming as a result of that. So just real quickly, the production numbers, I'll just point that out to you. You guys can see that for yourself, but that just obviously shows what we produce as a result of the events that we do and the FAMs and that kind of thing that we offer. And then quickly, the visitor center, you can take a look at that too. The visitor counts are up. We continue to see increased numbers. And just real quick, we did recently hire a new visitor information specialist, so we are fully staffed as we go into season. You're welcome. Any questions?
Got it.
Thanks.
Thanks. All right, Mr. Irvin.
Good morning again. I'll make this pretty brief for you. As Kelly did indicate, we did have a ribbon cutting yesterday for our new Seagrove Regional Beach Access. Very proud of this project. It was one that was very difficult, excuse me, to get across the finish line with all the permitting requirements. But that did add about 115 linear foot or feet worth of beach there, added 23 parking spaces. So looking forward to an additional regional beach access. All of our other projects are progressing. One thing to note on the Legion Park project, we're still debating and arguing with FDEP over the environmental resource permit there. So hopefully we'll have some decision on that to bring that before the Board of County Commissioners for direction on advertising an ITB for construction. Getting into the transportation piece, we did see a pretty large increase last month with our ridership, about a 41% increase year over year. With the expansion of the tram system, that makes perfect sense. But we are receiving a lot of good feedback on that, and certainly excited to offer that this year, and think that will help with some of the traffic congestion and get people to the beach without having to drive around and find a parking space. So with that said, one last thing on that, we're working with marketing and with some of our industry partners to develop a live map for the location of those trams. So if someone were to figure out where, the next tram is going to be, they can see that in real time. So looking forward to that. And then lastly, with our garbage collections, you'll see there that it's certainly up year over year, month over month. So
Got it? Any questions? Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Matt, do you have anything final?
Awesome. Thank you for the opportunity. Just one quick note for me. Just wanted to let you all know we do have applications for our vacant council seat. Those are open through 4 p.m. this Friday. So if you know anybody who may be interested in being considered to serve on the council, please let us know. We've been actively making phone calls and talking to folks and making sure we got the word out that that vacancy was there. So ideally, if we could get somebody seated by May 5th, that would be great to have somebody there for the joint workshop. But we will keep accepting those applications through Friday.
Are there any restrictions on that seat, or is it at large?
It's our flex seat, so the person can be an owner, operator, bed tax collector, or just somebody who's tourism adjacent.
All right. Sure.
Clay, this is probably for you, but I laugh when I look at social media at night and read some of the things being said about the nasty TDC and the BCC, but it did cause me to ask a question. So the lots where we're charging for parking are TDC owned, correct?
I'd have to look at which ones where they're charging for parking. I don't know that I have that list off the top of my head. Technically, everything owned is owned by the Walton County Board of County Commissioners. I don't know that the TDC, outside of the lease interest it holds, actually owns any of the parking lots.
Okay, yeah, it was just a sheer curiosity question.
I'll verify that for you if any are directly owned.
It was just more like, is the money we're charging coming back into the general fund, or is the money we're charging coming back into tourism? That was the question that peaked in my head when I was looking at it one night.
The position I've taken previously when we first looked at this, and this goes back 6-7 years now to when Mr. Tusa was here. If the TDC monies were used to acquire a parking facility that expands a beach park facility, that's where some of them were, and a paid parking program was instituted, that money would have to first go back to the TDC with only indirect administrative costs administered by the county writ large, if the county is the one doing a paid parking program being collected into the general fund of the county. I see no reason why I would change that opinion at this time, but I'll certainly look into it. For instance, I'll give you the example. I know we talked about doing one across from Watercolor, the 2 acres there. That was a donated swap with St. Joe. No TDC money went into buying it, but I'll look into it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was more just, I think it's something we should make sure we all understand, because we're going to get questions.
Good question. Anyone else? Any public comments? If there are none, Vice Chair Coble moves revised. Show that done without objection. We are adjourned. All right. How's everything with you and your lovely bride?